Somebody needs it. All right. All right, everybody can see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So this is sort of our professional development plan for the 2020-2021 academic year. As you might be aware, we started this past year in 2019 and 2020 taking data out of the needs assessment that gets disseminated to the teachers every 2 years. We just completed one this past spring. And the data that we get from that needs assessment is extremely important. And we place a lot of stock and value in the data that we get back. So the number one content area, AF&R content area, that rose to the top from you folks was the ag business, which is why we just completed the 2019-2020 ag business professional development theme. And a very close second to that was agricultural biotechnology. So we made the decision at the center to devote an entire year of programming and sort of theme all of our programming around that central topic area of whatever floats to the surface of the needs assessment. So for 2020, 2021, I'm not going to say that the bulk of our professional development, well, it is the bulk, I should say the bulk, but I'm not going to say every little bit of professional development that the center offers is going to be centered around biotechnology. And for this year, we took an even different and newer approach to how we offer this programming by designing a very, very specific and intensive deep dive program that is going to be limited in enrollment. And I just named it the Breaking Down Biotech program because a little bit of backstory into how we decided on what we were going to do is we started this process back in the fall already when we knew that we had biotechnology coming up as our 2020-2021 theme. And I pulled together a very robust and diverse group of industry folks, Penn State folks, other nonprofit entities that operate within the biotech space, and pulled them all together and brought them to University Park back in December, back when we were still allowed to get together face-to-face, and devoted a whole half of a day to having this diverse group of folks address some really key issues. One being, what does your industry need? What are the most prevalent and most in-demand skills, competencies, knowledge, etc., that somebody interested in the biotechnology career field would need, or that wants to pursue higher education in biotechnology. And in my head, this would work out great as we would leave that session and have a really clear picture of this is the stuff that our teachers need to know in order to best prepare their students for careers and futures in biotechnology. Well, it didn't work out that way. And I would say what I learned the most from that session was that biotechnology is not just one thing or another, or it is this or it's not this. It's a lot of things. It includes a lot of things. And there's processes, there's jobs, there's things that happen in the world that are considered biotechnology that we really don't necessarily always think are biotechnology. So it it left me with a lot more questions than it did answers. So since that December session, I've worked with this group, and that group of advisory folks grew tremendously since the fall until this past spring. And it almost doubled, actually more than doubled in size, as more folks referred me to other folks. And then we pulled them in, and the water got a little bit cloudier as we went instead of clearer. So all in all, after much consultation, taking a lot of advice, hearing a lot of opinions from the folks that operate in biotechnology research, occupations, and industries, we decided that we were just going to cover a sampler of a lot of different aspects of biotech. So hence the breaking down biotech. As you'll see by our calendar of programming, it's going to cover a lot of very diverse topics, and we're going to have a lot of very diverse experiences in this. So the program itself is, as it says there on the left-hand column, we don't want to deter a teacher from attending any of our events. That's not the point in all of this. But this program is for individuals, teachers that really want to step up and say, over the course of the next 12 months, I'd really, really like to elevate my awareness, my understanding, and my competency in all things biotechnology. So it's a very, very intensive, deep dive program that a select few individuals are going to participate in and complete. And then also the intent is that we're sort of going to farm some teachers to be some content matter experts in this field. And we know that there's quite a few out there already that do cover a lot of this in their classes with students and are very experienced and well-versed and competent in the biotechnology areas. But our intent is to produce, hopefully, 10 more that we didn't have before that are out there in the field for your fellow colleagues to lean on and sort of pick your brain and utilize your newfound expertise in this. So if you've already read the requirements of eligibility for this program, is that you must be a current Pennsylvania school-based teacher. Okay, so nobody that left teaching and is still hanging around PA and just wants to sort of do this for fun. You must be a current and active Pennsylvania teacher. Notice the second bullet point of preference will be given to teachers with 3 or more years of service. Okay, now I know there's at least one teacher on here that does not necessarily meet that criterion, and do not get scared. That does not mean you're automatically ineligible. However, the rationale behind that is that we know through experience, through new and beginning programming, that in your first 3 years of teaching, you've got a lot of things going on and you've got a lot of things to worry about. You're still navigating different things. You're still getting acquainted to your school. You're still getting acquainted to the whole notion of becoming a professional teacher. And there's a lot of time commitment built into this calendar. And we didn't want to overwhelm a new teacher with all of this time out of school, etc. So that's not to say that we will not permit a new or beginning teacher with under 3 years of experience from participating in this program. However, preference will be given to those with 3 or more. And you're more than welcome, and any teacher is more than welcome to attend any of these events. However, in order to be considered a completer of this program, you must attend 8 out of the 9 events on this calendar. And I'll talk about what you get as a result of that completion, that program completion, in a second. So you must also teach at least one class that's related to animal or plant science, food science, ag biotechnology, or any combination of these. Again, no offense, we don't necessarily want somebody that runs a welding program taking a spot in this program of biotechnology. And I will be the first to acknowledge that there's plenty of opportunity uh, and crossover between biotechnology into various mechanical industries. However, the focus of this program is going to be more on the scientific application of biotechnology to AFNR and food production. So you must teach one of those classes. You must agree to create and submit to the center a reusable learning object from each of these experiences that you attend. So what does that exactly look like? So on December 12th, we're going to be running a fermentation science workshop at University Park with an awesome faculty member, Dr. Jeff Katchmark out of Ag and Bioengineering. And after you completed that workshop, we want you to take everything that you experience in this program and then go back and put the rubber to the road and create something that you are going to use in your class with students to connect your students with the information that you gained out of that workshop. And as part of the whole giving back to the profession notion, we at the center would like to create a repository of those artifacts and lessons and worksheets and activities and labs that you're going to come up with as a result of these experiences, to then make them available statewide. Because one of the things that has been learned out of the needs assessment data is that teachers feel this is important. Teachers identified that they need to know more about this content area, and they're also looking for resources and materials to utilize in their classes. So this is a very intertwined goal that the center has to both educate and elevate teachers' knowledge, skills, and competencies in the biotech space, as well as compile resources that we can then assist teachers with statewide to help them proliferate biotechnology being taught in the classroom. You're also going to need to obtain administrative support in the form of a signed form from your administrator, which I'll show you an example of that in a second. We want to know that your administrators are supportive of you because, again, this is going to require some time commitment from you. This is going to require some travel. As you see, we're scheduled to go up to Erie in May for an awesome experience that our partner friends at Hero BX Fuels in Erie, PA have agreed to set up for us. So that's going to require potentially missing a half day or a full day of school to travel up to State College or travel all the way up to Erie, depending on what you would do. We want to know that your administrator is aware of the time commitment, and also to ensure that your administrator is aware that we at the center will happily cover the cost of your substitutes for any of the time you must miss school for these experiences, as well as reimburse travel. So the financial lift to your district is virtually zero, other than your face and body not being in a school at some point. The school district should not have to fork over any money, really, for you to participate in this experience. We just want administrative signatures to show that they understand that. And last but not least, to participate in this program, you need to be planning on attending the 2021 PAAE Summer Conference, currently scheduled to be in Wellsboro again, July 12th through the 15th. As an addendum and a sort of disclaimer to all of this, as we're well aware, the 2020-2021 summer conference may very well not happen again, depending on where we are in the world with COVID-19, as well as any of these in-person experiences may need to be very quickly and abruptly altered or switched to a virtual option, which we really, really, really don't want to see happen. But just depending on what happens with COVID, summer conference may not be in person again next year, and some of these in-person workshops may have to be curtailed or switched to online. So as long as summer conference happens in Wellsboro next summer, we would like you to be there for at least a day of it, to provide some professional development back to the profession. And the hope is that you would take a really, really cool resource or lesson or lab activity that you design as part of your reusable learning object requirement, and then do a session at PAAE Summer Conference teaching other teachers how to utilize what you've created. All right. Any questions on anything that I've covered so far before we move on? I'm going to click this link right here in a second and show you the full eligibility and requirements Google Doc that's attached to this. So feel free to unmute and ask any questions you might have. But I'll just take a moment and kind of give you a rundown and an overview of what to expect out of these experiences. So we understand that folks are going to be interested in participating in this program at all different spots on the spectrum of experience and comfort in biotechnology. So October 9th and 10th at University Park, we're going to have Mr. David, actually Dr. David Garby, a partner that we found and made friends with the Pennsylvania Society of Biomedical Research and Education, which is a nonprofit, independent group that goes around into schools and does biotechnology trainings. They provide biotechnology advice and resources for teachers. So Dr. David Garby is going to sort of provide and get everybody squared away on the basics. I love the fact that Mr. Guyman yesterday made mention of remembering back to your high school biology classes and so on, because a lot of those theories and concepts are going to be really important and prevalent and reoccur throughout many of the experiences in this calendar. And I would go as far as to say is the level of complexity is going to increase as we move ahead throughout the 2020-2021 year. So it's important that everybody has a solid foundation on some of the basics. So Dr. David Garby is going to review, refresh, and get everybody on the same page as far as the biotechnology basic concepts, DNA, RNA, mitochondrial respiration, et cetera, all of those different things. But he's going to do it through the lens of investigating genetically modified organisms related to agriculture. So there's no doubt in my mind that he and his group are going to do a fantastic job with that. And then October 6th will be the first session of the 2020 Fall Connect to Industry webinar series. And we're lucky enough to have Mr. Greg Krug and Gary Klinger of Lampire Biologic Incorporated. They are a biopharmaceutical supply company. They also do their own diagnostical research and development on different testing kits. They're very actively involved right now in the COVID-19 search for vaccinations, better testing equipment, et cetera. But they use a lot of a huge variety of farm animals, alpacas, rabbits, ostriches, you name it. They've got a ton of different animals that they draw blood from to utilize in research and biotech industry applications. So they're going to be talking about what they do and what their industry needs on October 6th. And then Mr. John Seifert at Conrad Weiser High School on November 5th is going to do a webinar on bioinformatics, a concept that was new to me until it was brought up in one of our advisory sessions. So John has agreed to do a webinar for us on that and share how he covers that in his classroom. The 17th, Dr. Troy Ott at Penn State is going to be covering animal biotechnology and how it's utilized in reproductive science, growth and health in the agricultural AF&R industry. And then, as I said, on December 12th, Dr. Jeff Katchmark and his graduate student, Scott Flume, will be doing a really cool fermentation science workshop, as well as covering bioethics, which is another thing that Mr. Guyman mentioned yesterday up at University Park. A disclaimer, as long as COVID-19 cooperates, that workshop will culminate with a tour of Otto's Brewery in State College. So that might be an enticing factor for some of us right there. And then our third and final Connect Industry series will be sometime in December. I'm working with some folks both at Penn State and in private industry to cover how biotechnology is utilized in the food industry. Then in ACES in February, if we have them in person, Dr. Beatrice Sirikaya, who's a really interesting and phenomenal research faculty at Penn State, very, very, very well versed in agriculture, keeps horses herself, and could go on and on and on and on, as Mr. Guyman did yesterday, about how different processes are utilized in the equine industry itself. But then she's also got a slew of industry experience, working in labs, separating milk, etc. So we're going to do, her and her team of graduate students are putting together some lessons and activities exploring the properties of milk, and also that utilize some lab processes and equipment. And our hope is to do those at all 3 weekends of ACES if it happens in person, okay? So again, most of you are probably going to be at one of those sessions anyway, and it counts as part of this program. In March, Mr. Greg Krug and Gary Klinger at Lampire Biologic, that I just mentioned with the Connect to Industry series, are working with their industry partners and friends to develop some regional biotechnology field days with, again, biotech industry and biotechnology companies in Pennsylvania. So they are working out the logistics of funding, getting companies to sponsor these events, etc. So not a whole lot of detail on that just yet, but it sounds exciting, and we hope to offer 3 of them across Pennsylvania, one in the east, one in the central Pennsylvania, and one in the west. So a lot of logistics, a lot of moving parts in that one, but we hope to do that one in March, and we will bring you more information on that as it becomes available. And then in May, our final scheduled event is that biofuels workshop up in Erie, and actually the founder and owner, the family of the founder and owner of this Hero BX Fuels endowed a lab at Penn State Behrend up in Erie that's solely devoted to biofuel education and research. And because of the connection between this company that we've been working with and Penn State Behrend, we're going to get you into that lab, and the guys at Hero BX, as well as their contact at Penn State Behrend, are going to do a really fantastic, intensive, hands-on workshop on all things biofuels in that lab. And some of you may remember the days of Mr. Paul Heasley's biodiesel program at State College High School, which I took part in, and actually left that workshop and started making biodiesel on my own for my own personal use. which I don't do anymore. But so if you remember that, don't, and not to say that that was bad or poor or any way in any way, because I got a lot out of it. Obviously, this is not going to just be a repeat on how to make biodiesel. Making biodiesel is going to be a part of it, and making, small tabletop biodiesel is certainly going to be one portion of it. But they're going to talk about different ways of making biodiesel, and then do a comparison analysis of the end result, the purity, etc., as well as different ways to wash biodiesel. They're going to get into ethanol production. Again, all things biofuels, and their contact at Penn State Behrend is extremely excited to create labs, lessons, and activities to send back with you to utilize in your own classroom with students. So that's our calendar. It took a lot to get that there, and it should be exciting. It should be great. And I'm excited to see it play out. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so in this flyer, if you click on the link down there, it'll take you to the Google Doc in which a lot of the same information is spelled out, but in more detail, the reason and the rationale and so on. So we will be able to take up to 10 participants in this specific program. Again, that's not to say that every one of these workshops is going to be limited to 10 people. For instance, every weekend at ACES, if ACES happens as usual in person, we can take 30 to 40 per session down at the Sheraton in Swatera. But for this program specifically, we're only able to accept up to 10 participants. And that's due to budgetary reasons, because I'd like to draw your attention to this. If you apply to, participate in, and successfully complete the requirements of this deep dive program, the sender is going to compile a resource package valued at $500. It could be a hair more, it could be a hair less, of lab equipment, lab packages, many of which Mr. Guyman referred to yesterday. But the center is going to purchase and compile a package of resources, equipment, supplies valued at about $500 and give it to you for your successful completion of this program. Okay. And just, we have to limit this program to 10 just because we're investing a lot in these 10 individuals that complete the program. Okay. Again, the program calendar that I just covered, there's my disclaimer. All of this is subject to change at a moment's notice due to COVID-19, because we just don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. There's the requirements and the timeline for applying. Okay. This is open on Monday in conjunction with PAAE Summer Conference. And then right there is the link to apply. It's just a simple Google form. It does ask you a lot of questions, but we do anticipate having more than 10 teachers apply to this program. So we needed to collect enough information in order to properly screen and evaluate each applicant to make sure that we determine that we've got the right people in this cohort of teachers to do what this program's intended to do. And I just want to reiterate, if you do apply and don't end up getting accepted to it, that doesn't mean that you can't come to these events. We just have to limit it for budgetary reasons. Okay. All right. Any questions about anything that I covered there? Okay, I just gave a few. Yes, Alex.
Just to confirm, the webinar series portion, is that going to continue to usually be after the school day as far as the Zoom sessions? I know my administrator is going to want to know kind of which days are I need a sub days and which ones are just don't schedule me for anything after school days.
Yes. Unless I hear otherwise, that's sort of just that was John Seaman a couple like 2 years ago when I was figuring that series out, thinking what time is the best time for a teacher to be on a webinar. And I thought back to my days in the classroom, and I thought, well, school ended roughly around 3, and I didn't want to, if I had bus duty or any of that stuff, I didn't want to miss the beginning of something or rush right out of my 8th period class and hop on a computer, etc. So I built in a little bit of a window there for after school duties, etc. And I came to, but I also understand that you guys don't want to be stuck at school till all hours of the evening on a webinar. So I refer to it as my golden hour for webinars, 3:30 to 4:30. And until I have a consensus telling me, nope, that's entirely wrong, don't do that anymore. That's when I make all my web-based stuff, 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon.
Perfect for me. Thanks.
You bet. Thanks for the question. Anything else? Any other questions or comments that anybody has? Anybody think they're going to apply?
Yes.
Good. Good. I will say this has been an ongoing process our advisory committee on biotech has grown to 35 individuals, and there are a lot of heavy hitting individuals from around the university, from around industry, from around like the Pennsylvania Society for Biomedical Research and Education, other nonprofits, other university groups, Center for Science in the Schools, etc. A lot of big players in that group of 35, and all cared and all were very interested in helping, but it was really, 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 really difficult to whittle it down to a reasonable number of events for the year. What are the topics we're going to do? What are the workshop topics we're going to cover? And then getting folks to the biggest struggle was getting out of that 35 individuals, getting folks, because they're really busy people, getting folks to commit to running some of the sessions. So I won't lie, the conversation started back in November already, and I was just pinning down people and saying, you'll agree to do this workshop on this date for the coming year. I was still having those conversations in late May, early June. So it really, really, really has been a process, but I'm extremely pleased and excited with the end product and program that we have. So I hope that you will consider applying, and I hope that it is as creative an experience for you as I am pretty sure it will be. Any other questions or comments or concerns? All right, well, that's all that I have to cover. You're welcome to stick around and chat with me individually about anything related to this or not. And if you like, you're free to hop off. Thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to seeing some applications. Enjoy the rest of your conference today.